Squeezing fruit juice is the first step in making a rare type of liquor that's only prepared in this part of the world. The Indian drink called feni can contain up to 40% alcohol and has a strong fruity flavor. Families here in the state of Goa have been distilling it for centuries from cashew fruit or from the sap found inside the flowering stalks of coconut trees. Locals here risk their lives climbing 100 feet to retrieve the precious ingredient.
Daring which pada? Daring beyond galdela to gallo.
But feni has never really taken off anywhere else. It has a reputation of being a poor man's drink, similar to how mezcal was once seen in Mexico. But mezcal makers found a global market by rebranding it as an artisanal drink and showcasing its laborious production process. Producers here in Goa are trying to do something similar. So what will it take to reinvent the image of feni and spur global demand? Toddy tappers structure their entire lives around this job. Milagres has to wake up at the break of dawn. First, he exercises for 15 minutes. He puts on an ointment to help ease the pain from climbing. Then he gets his tools ready. Toddy tapping is a cottage industry in Goa, and Milagres even has a few trees in his own backyard. But he does most of his work at a larger grove about half a mile away. It's owned by a local, and Milagres pays an annual fee of $24 per tree to collect toddy here. He uses nothing but his body strength to hoist himself up the trunk. He learned how to do this from a neighbor when he was 14. Over the years, he's overcome the fear of falling.
Bill jale galo munis. Mot jale hui mota. Accident jar moro sekta. Hui plane na aso sekta. Hui os sekta. Te kam ambe poil chante am jati ko aste kam. Aao bina.
He reaches the top in just a minute or two. Now he has to carefully balance himself and start tapping on the stem. After 2 days of tapping, he makes an incision in the top of the flowering stalk or spadix with a cleaver and fastens it with his plastic strip so that it doesn't burst open. He has to come back 3 times a day for the next 4 days to continue tapping and slicing the spadix by half a centimeter every time to induce the flow of toddy. Then he places a clay pot to collect the sap. Milagres climbs about 10 trees a day, and he has stalks at different stages of the process throughout the grove. At 55 years old, he still works 7 days a week. He transfers the sap into his container. At this stage, the toddy is non-alcoholic and sweet. With focus and patience, Milagres can collect sap from one spadix for over a month. A single coconut tree produces around 400 liters of it each year. Milagres has to bottle it immediately because as soon as it's exposed, the toddy begins to ferment. The warm tropical climate speeds up the process. At home, he strains the sap to get rid of any coconut fibers. He makes up to $300 a month selling mostly the raw toddy and sometimes the distilled coconut feni. But not as many locals are drinking it these days, favoring other cheap alcoholic drinks like beer. In Goa, coconut feni has been known as a drink of the poor, consumed mainly by the working class who could afford it. India originally classified it as a country liquor, That meant it could be exported abroad, but not to other Indian states. In 2016, it was reclassified as a heritage spirit. But it's still hard for distillers to sell it nationwide. Licenses are expensive, and some states haven't caught up to the changes. Meanwhile, India has become one of the fastest growing alcohol markets in the world. The boom is driven mostly by spirits like whiskey and tequila. But artisanal drinks are gaining popularity too, and distiller Hansel Vaz is hoping to cash in on that trend. He's marketing coconut feni as a premium brand, a drink that's made with high-quality ingredients and handcrafted with care.
From what I'm seeing right now, we're getting a lot of international chatter about this spirit. We're not copying a gin, we're not copying a whiskey. This is an original spirit from the soul of India.
He hopes the organic nature of this drink will appeal to connoisseurs. It's even distilled in a unique way. Workers pour the sap into a traditional clay pot and seal it with mud. Next, the pot is heated on high flames till it releases vapors. These pass through a pipe to a tank where they condense and drip out. One distillation cycle takes 5 hours. He says he's already seen the feni's reputation shift in his lifetime.
11 years ago, nobody looked at feni. You would be embarrassed to drink a coconut feni. Today, we have the 5-star hotels. We've got the top bartenders in the country asking for feni.
Commercial feni can contain up to 40% alcohol. But Milagros' version has a little bit less.
ती म्हणटा म्हाका उठ काड म्हणटा हांव उठ काडना 22 काडा कित्याक लोकां आतां सांग मुगे बॉल लागो जाय.
And there are drinks in other parts of the world that have gone through a similar journey, like Mezcal in Mexico. For centuries, it was known as the drink of the poor, more accessible to the masses than tequila. But it has soared in popularity in recent years as Americans fell in love with its smoky flavor, which comes from cooking agave hearts in an earthen oven that is built from scratch. After 5 days, the cooked fruit is removed and crushed by placing it in this molino or grinder. A horse pulls the stone, which weighs a whopping 1,000 pounds. Next, the agave fibers are moved into these vats and left to ferment with water. Naturally occurring yeast gets to work eating the sugar and converting it into alcohol. After about a week, the mixture is transferred into heated tanks for distillation. As the agave fibers heat up, the alcohol vapor rises. It travels through this tube, condenses, and drops into an awaiting jug. Mezcal production in Mexico jumped 400% from 2014 to 2020. Now, the US market for mezcal is bigger than Mexico's. Tappers in Goa are also doing their best to promote coconut feni. They're pushing for a geographical indication tag that would make Goa the only place to authentically produce it. Another type of feni made from cashews already has this classification.
It is a great spirit with a great story and a great culture, but we've not been able to put it out.
Like toddy tapping, this is also a traditional business.
We've been in a bubble for more than 200 years. The feni has existed but never spoken about, and now it's time that we come out of a bubble.
Local families collect fallen fruits every morning. After removing the cashew nut, they smash the fruit using their feet to extract the nectar. The last bits are piled into a mound, and every last drop of juice is squeezed out. Then it's fermented and distilled using centuries-old techniques.
Our ancestors had this thought where they said, you know what, let's innovate. Let's take an extra step ahead. If we can do distilled toddy, which has sugar, let's try distilling fruits.
The drink became a part of local Goan cuisine when the Portuguese colonized the state in 1510. It was Catholic missionaries who introduced distillation techniques that are still used today.
आम्ही हे काम करताय आमी क्रिस्तांव करताय कोंकण्याचे आनी मुस्लिम लोक नाही.
Milagros' mother, Cristalina, used to make cashew feni too. But at 74 years old, She's now retired and prefers a quiet life at home. Still, her only son works night and day, even through family emergencies, so that the sap doesn't go to waste.
माँ मरा, बाप मरो, वो बेबी मरो, कौन मर गया? छुट्टी नहीं में क्या? एक दिन नहीं जाता है, वो सुर नहीं आता है, इसलिए रोज को जाने को मांगता.
But now his children don't want to follow in his footsteps. They're hoping to make more money than toddy tappers.
पहिले सो काम करता आमगे गांवां 30 जाण काम करताले पहिले ते मी आत तेंको ते जायना म्हूण तें काम सोडे आमी एक कोताय ते लास्ट.
But as long as he's fit, Milagros will continue to climb these palm trees and carry on Goa's legacy.